Enoch's 10 weeks and when is the end of the world? Why do I fail to mention Enoch when I talk about the timing and how we know it is the end time now? It's not new information, I just have not mentioned it as much as I should. The 10 weeks of centuries, i.e. 10 700-year periods of time, describe the entire plan of God from the creation to the return of Christ and the recreating of all things when this age is finished. When we put Enoch's 10 weeks prophecy into context with the history that we know, we can see that we're definitely in the 9th week right now, just before the return of Christ. Now, I know there are other theories out there about 490 years per week, 1,000 years per week, etc. But if you study that idea like I have, I'm sure you'll come to the same conclusion that I have. It doesn't work unless you apply it as weeks of centuries. This also lines up with other types of weeks in the Bible. A week in Old Testament verbiage was 7 years, and Daniel's 70 weeks are weeks of years for a total of 490 years. This also lines up perfectly with a 7-day plan of God. Peter mentions that 1,000 years is as a day and a day as 1,000 years to God. The plan of God as shown to us in the Bible is 7 millenniums or a week of millenniums. We're not shown that in black and white, but we can determine that this is so when we study everything God has told us. Enoch's 10 weeks is 10 weeks of centuries. We know this because it begins with creation and ends with the new heavens and new earth that God creates at the end of the millennial reign of Christ. We're at 6,000 years from creation right now, and the next 1,000 years will be with God himself ruling on the earth, with those who love him ruling as kings and priests with him. At the end of that, he recreates all things and lives with us forever in literal bliss. So this is another point that can and should be made when discussing the timing of where we're at in biblical prophecy and the timeline of God's plan. Enoch's 10 weeks of centuries fit perfectly into the 7,000-year plan of God as we understand it to be. We are past the middle of the 9th week, week 9. And after that, in the 9th week, the righteous judgment shall be revealed to the whole world, and all the works of the godless shall vanish from all the earth, and the world shall be written down for destruction. Jesus is revealed to the world, and he removes the works of the godless elites that rule the world today, and all will be destroyed after the judgment. We're waiting for the imminent beginning of the final week, the final 7 years, and the arrival of the Antichrist in the midst of that week. Look for the peace treaty that will be signed in Israel, confirming the covenant, and the borders of Israel will be drawn by the world. It will likely be forced upon them by the world as a whole. When we see that event, it will signal the beginning of the final 7 years, and Jesus will return at the end of those 7 years to put down the governments of men and defeat the devil and his Antichrist. Come quickly, Lord. Read my notes on the book of Enoch here, Bible Prophecy and Truth.com notes Enoch.